I was sitting in a rocking chair just outside the Cracker Barrel off I-24 in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, twirling my engagement ring like it was a peppermint I didn't know whether to chew or spit out. Inside, people were still eating, laughing, dipping cornbread in honey butter like the world hadn't just turned inside out. 10 minutes earlier I was on one knee. Not him. Me. Yeah, me. My name's Dolores June Carlisle, but everyone at First Baptist calls me DJ. I'm 63, been a widow for 8 years, and never thought I'd fall for another man again. Until Earl Wilson walked into Sunday service in his pressed Levi's and sang, "It is well with my soul," like he meant it. I should have known a man who hums during the offering plate ain't to be trusted. Let me back up. No, let me plant you right where I was. We were sitting at our table, booth number 6, across from the fireplace. You could smell the pecan pancakes and maple bacon like it was candle wax melting over heartache. Earl pulled out a small black box from his denim jacket. I thought it was cough drops. Instead, he said, loud enough for every retiree and tourist in that room to hear, "Dolores, will you marry me and make the rest of our years sweeter than your peach cobbler?" Y'all, they clapped. A teenage waitress gasped. An older couple near us shouted, "Say yes." One man with a Vietnam cap toasted his sweet tea at us. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I nodded and whispered, "Yes," before my voice caught up. I wasn't thinking. I was floated. Like my heart had grabbed a hot air balloon and just drifted off. He kissed my hand, smiled, and then he stood up, said he needed the restroom, walked past the biscuits, and never came back. Not after 5 minutes. Not after 15. Not even when the waiter came over to say, "Your gentleman friend said you'd take care of the check." Thought it was a joke. I laughed. Lord help me. Then I went to the bathroom door and knocked. "Earl? You okay?" A young man walked out. "No, Earl." I checked the parking lot. His red Silverado was gone. Just like that. Like I was some commercial he switched off mid-show. I sat back down in the booth. Folks were still eating like nothing happened. I kept staring at the empty coffee cup across from me, still half full. Still warm. Was it a dare? A prank? A stroke? The engagement ring was still on my finger. A tiny heart-shaped cubic zirconia that sparkled under the light but felt colder than Tennessee marble. I pulled it off, put it on the napkin, and just sat there, staring, breathing too fast. Or maybe not enough. I felt like every wrinkle on my face had deepened all at once. My lipstick cracked in the corners. I suddenly realized I hadn't washed my hair in 3 days. The waitress, bless her, tried to smile when she brought the check. "You okay, ma'am?" I nodded too hard. "Oh, I'm fine. Just enjoying the view." The view of life, I said, because it was all I could manage. I pulled out my debit card. The one I use only for special occasions. The one my late husband, Tom, used to say we should never touch unless it was an emergency or a miracle. Well, this sure wasn't no miracle. $46.12. I tipped her $20 because I didn't want to cry in front of anyone. Then I walked outside. Past the rocking chairs. Past the toy section with those wooden triangle peg games I used to beat Tom at. And that's where I sat. On that front porch. Alone. Holding a fake ring, a plastic smile, and the weight of 63 years of believing people meant what they say. I didn't have the energy to cry. But I wasn't numb either. I was burned. Like peach pie left too long in the oven. Still sweet, but scorched on the bottom. That's when I saw it. A woman, probably early 70s, walking out of the diner. She was holding a small velvet ring box. She looked down at it. Her mouth tightened. Then she tossed it straight into the trash can like she was swatting a wasp. I blinked. "No way." "Oh, wait. Excuse me," I called out, standing up. "Ma'am? Did you just... was that an engagement ring box?" She looked at me. Hesitated. Then nodded. "Earl?" I asked. Her face crumpled. She nodded again. I froze. What are the odds? 2 women. 2 rings. 1 diner. I stepped toward her. She shook her head like she didn't want to talk. But I kept walking anyway. "Did he propose to you here too?" She didn't answer. Just pulled out a tissue from her purse and whispered, "Last Saturday. Same booth." Same line about the peach cobbler. Oh. I nearly collapsed. Suddenly the $46.12 wasn't even the worst part. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was a pattern. A scheme. My chest tightened. I sat back down in the rocking chair and watched her walk away. And that's when I decided. I wasn't going home. Not yet. I was gonna find Earl. I was gonna figure out who he was, what he wanted, and why the hell he picked me, and this other poor woman, to play pretend with. You don't get to mess with church-going women in their 60s and think we won't do something about it. Because if this was a game, well, I've played harder ones. Subscribe for the next part, because what I found out next made Cracker Barrel look like a crime scene. And it was just the beginning of Earl's senior scam operation. You won't believe who else he proposed to, or why. I didn't even go home. My house, small brick 2 bedrooms and still full of Tom's tools in the garage, was only 10 minutes from the Cracker Barrel. But if I'd gone back there, I would have melted into the couch and disappeared. So instead, I sat in my car with the air conditioning blowing full blast on my face like I was trying to freeze away the shame. Earl Wilson. That was even his real name. That snake had looked me in the eye and told me I had the softest soul this side of the Smokies. Had asked about my arthritis, remembered my late husband's name, held my hand during prayer at Wednesday night Bible study. He had played the long game. And it worked. Till now. I pulled out my phone and opened Facebook. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Just something. A trail. Anything. I typed in, Earl Wilson plus Murfreesboro. Nothing. So I added, church. Then Cracker Barrel. Still nothing solid. Just a couple posts from people with dogs named Earl. Then I remembered something. He mentioned once that he used to volunteer at the Columbia Pike Senior Center, playing piano for the Tuesday socials. That detail, it had seemed so charming at the time. Now it felt like breadcrumbs. So I drove. No plan. No makeup. Still wearing the same pale pink blouse I'd worn for the proposal that turned into a punchline. I gripped the steering wheel tight, every knuckle showing. By the time I pulled into the senior center parking lot, I was so wound up I didn't even notice the raindrops starting to hit the windshield. Inside, the place smelled like lemon-scented mop water and cinnamon rolls. A woman at the front desk smiled. You here for bingo? No, ma'am. I'm looking for a man. Name's Earl Wilson. 60-something. Plays piano. Talks like a preacher and lies like a politician. Her face flickered. Oh, him, she said quietly. You too. That stopped me. What do you mean, you too? She looked down, clicked her pen nervously, then said, he used to come around here every couple months. Charming guy. Real southern gentleman. Flirted with everyone. We figured he was just lonely. Did he ever propose to anyone? I asked. She paused. 2 women I know of. Maybe more. My stomach dropped. You got names? Not for me to say, she replied. But Miss Hattie down the hall had it real bad. You might want to talk to her. Room 12. Room 12 was decorated with more ceramic angels than I'd ever seen in one place. A small woman with silver curls and sharp eyes sat by the window knitting something purple. She looked up when I knocked. Miss Hattie. She tilted her head. You looking for Earl? I nodded. She sighed and patted the seat beside her. I said yes to him under that magnolia tree out back, she said. Thought I'd finally found someone who could make the rest of my years feel like spring again. What happened? She held up her left hand. No ring. Just a faint tan line where one had sat. He asked me for $2,000 to put down on a senior community getaway, timeshare in Gatlinburg. Said he'd already put in his half. Showed me some glossy brochures. Even had a contract. And you gave it to him? I asked gently. I did. Like a fool. And you? No money, I said. Just my dignity. And a $46 lunch bill. She gave a bitter little laugh. Cheap crook. We sat in silence for a few seconds. I could hear the faint echo of shuffleboard pucks clinking down the hallway. Why hasn't anyone reported him? Finally asked. She looked at me hard. Bez we're old, honey. And embarrassed. Who's gonna believe a bunch of lonely widows got conned by some smooth talker with a fake name and good teeth? That hit me in the gut. He was right. This wasn't just about me anymore. It wasn't just about a man leaving me in a Cracker Barrel booth like a half-eaten dumpling. It was about a pattern. A predator who knew exactly what kind of women to target. Women who wore perfume when no one was coming over. Women who kept the second teacup clean just in case. Women like me. Back in the car, I sat motionless for a moment before grabbing my phone again. This time I typed into Google. Senior romance scams Tennessee. The results? Endless. And I mean endless. There were Reddit threads, Facebook groups, even a local Nashville news segment titled, "The Gentleman Ghost, Scam Artist Targets Elderly Women Across the South." I clicked play. There he was. Same denim jacket. Same easy smile. Only this time he was caught on security footage outside a Denny's in Georgia, helping a woman into her car with a bouquet in hand. Her name was Sandra Jean. Widowed. 68. Lost $3,800. I couldn't breathe. It was him. Same walk. Same dimples. Only this time he went by Harold Wills. I scrolled through the comment section. He hit my aunt in Kentucky. My mom almost married this man. Same script, different name. Somebody needs to catch him before he ruins another life. I gripped the phone until my fingers ached. This man didn't just break hearts. He destroyed trust. He used our loneliness like it was currency. And the world just kept spinning. Back home, I poured myself a glass of iced tea and stood at the kitchen sink. Tom's old coffee mug still sat by the windowsill. The one that said, "Don't talk to me till I've prayed and poured my coffee." I looked at it and whispered, "What would you do, Tom?" And then I had my answer. I was going to catch Earl. Expose him. Maybe even embarrass him the same way he humiliated me. Publicly. Not just for me. But for Ms. Hattie. For Sandra Jean. And every woman who ever believed that love could show up again after 60. Because guess what? It still can. But this wasn't love. This was theft wearing a be on the lookout tie. And I was about to light the match. Stick around for the next part where I go full detective and uncover how Earl was able to fool not just me but dozens of women across 3 states. You won't believe the twist I find buried in a church directory. Like, comment, and subscribe for more true stories that break your heart. And then rebuild it. Tom always said I could smell a lie before it opened its mouth. And yet, I hadn't smelled a thing when Earl leaned across that Cracker Barrel table and told me he loved me. Maybe grief dulls the senses. Or maybe I was just ready to believe somebody saw me again. But now, with the truth unraveling faster than my nerves, I realized something far more terrifying than the scam. Earl knew exactly who to pick. And I needed to know how. I started with the church. First Baptist of Stone Creek wasn't a big place. Maybe 80 members total. All seniors except for the pastor's teenage daughter who handled the PowerPoint slides during service. Earl had shown up in March, just before Easter. He sat in the back row, complimented the potluck banana pudding, and made sure to hug everyone goodbye like he'd been there 10 years. I remember thinking he reminded me of the kind of men in Hallmark movies. Turns out he was more Netflix documentary. I walked into the church lobby Wednesday morning wearing the same cardigan I wore the day he held my hand during altar call. I didn't plan it. It just happened. Miss Laverne, who handled the bulletin board and gossip in equal measure, was there rearranging the flowers. "DJ. You look pale. You all right?" "I need the church directory," I said, skipping pleasantries. "The old printed one from a few years back. The thick one before we went digital." She blinked. "What in heaven for?" I lied. "Looking for an old friend. Can't recall her last name." He bought it. 2 minutes later, I was flipping through the 2018 directory in the fellowship hall, scanning for a single name, Wilson Earl. But he wasn't in there. So I tried the 2022 update. Nothing. Then I looked closer, at the visitor's sign-in sheet from earlier this year, still taped to the back bulletin board. And there was. March 17th, Earl Wells. Phone number, 615-244. Email, wellsman56@protonmail.com, mail to wellsman56@protonmail.com. Wells. Not Wilson. That liar. He switched names like I switch reading glasses, depending on the lighting and the audience. I jotted the number and email down, heart thudding. Back home I dialed the number. Three. Once. Twice. Then straight to voicemail. His voice, smooth as pecan pie. Hey, this is Earl. Or Harold. Or Wells, depending on how well you know me. Leave a message unless you're selling something, in which case good luck to ya. I stared at the phone like it had slapped me. He was mocking us. All of us. I called again. Voicemail. I texted. You messed with the wrong woman. I'm not scared of you. I'm going to expose every lie you ever told. Delivered. No response. I paced the kitchen trying to stitch my thoughts together. The ring. The stories. The women. The phone number. How did he find us? How did he know who was vulnerable, who was lonely, who'd answer the phone at night just to hear someone breathe on the other end? That's when I remembered. The widows group. At church, we had a support circle called Restoration Sisters. We met monthly for coffee and scripture. About 15 of us. Most over 60, all widows, all still trying to figure out who we were now that we weren't someone's wife. It was small. Private. But last fall, our church had started live streaming some of our sessions on YouTube for outreach. My stomach dropped. I opened YouTube and searched. Restoration Sisters First Baptist Stone Creek. There they were. Full names listed on the thumbnail. Dozens of videos, public. There I was in one clip titled, Grieving with Grace, Dolores June's Testimony. I clicked play. There I was, raw and shaking, talking about how I still set out 2 teacups in the morning. About how I missed laughter most of all. About how I couldn't bring myself to take off my wedding ring until year 5. If Earl had watched this, he would have seen a woman who was already cracked. All he had to do was press a little and I'd shatter. I checked the view count. 1,932 views. Comments turned off. But damage done. That's how he found us. He didn't bump into us at church. He researched us. Watched us. Memorized us. He created a whole script. The cobbler line. The piano playing. The way he said, my wife died 2 pancreatic cancer real quick. Took her in 6 months. That line. Word for word the same one Hattie said he used on her. And Miss Sandra Jean in the Facebook group too. He didn't just steal our hearts. He franchised his story. That night I joined the Facebook group called Senior Scam Survivors, Southeast Chapter. Posted my own warning. Cracker Barrel proposal scam. Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky. Man in 60s. Real name uncertain. Goes by Earl, Harold, or Wells. Targeting widows. Proposes in public then vanishes. Sometimes asks for money. Sometimes just wants to humiliate. Within an hour I had 27 messages. A woman in Bowling Green. Another in Chattanooga. One in Jackson said he even met her grandson. But one message chilled me. I recognized him from your post. He's been messaging my mother on a dating site under the name Pastor Grayson. Just started last week. Can we talk? That's when it hit me. He wasn't done. He was still out there. Still active. Still hunting. And the thing about predators? They don't stop until they're stopped. I made a list. Women he'd contacted. Dates. Locations. Names. I printed photos from the Facebook group. I circled connections between towns. Restaurants. I even went to the county courthouse the next day and asked about known aliases. Showed them a screenshot of the news report. The woman behind the desk sighed and said, sounds familiar. But unless someone files a report with real financial loss, these guys keep slipping through. I showed her Hattie's name. Then Sandra Jean's. Then mine. She paused. If y'all are willing to talk, she said, I might be able to escalate this. I don't just want to talk, I told her. I want to testify. That night I didn't cry. I ironed my best blouse. I made a second pot of coffee just for me. And I went to bed with a sense of something I hadn't felt in years. Resolve. Earl, or Wells or Harold or whoever, thought we were weak. But there's one thing he forgot. Widows have already lived through the worst. We've buried husbands. Sat in silence. Gritted our teeth through holidays and empty chairs. You think we can't handle a liar with a smile? Please. We've met grief. We've had dinner with it. Now we're coming for justice. Subscribe for more as I unveil where the truth finally cracks open. And betrayal comes from someone I never expected. You'll never guess who tried to warn me, and why they stayed silent. The morning the betrayal broke wide open, I was slicing peaches for a cobbler I had no appetite for. The knife moved through the fruit like muscle memory, but my mind was back on my notes. On Earl, on the women, on everything I had pieced together like a jigsaw puzzle left half-finished in a dim room. Until the phone rang. I didn't recognize the number but I answered anyway. Hello. There was a pause. Then a familiar voice, deep, syrupy and suddenly sharp with nerves. It's Pastor Rick. My stomach dropped. I hadn't spoken to Pastor Rick in nearly 3 weeks. Not since Earl's proposal and my disappearing act from Sunday service. I wanted to talk to you, in person ideally, he said, voice low. But I think you need to know something. It's about Earl. I held my breath. Go on. Another pause. I knew him, he said. Before he came to First Baptist. His real name is Eldon Ray Wallace. And he's been run out of at least 4 other churches across the South. My heart pounded. What? I should have told you sooner, he said. But I didn't want to get sued. He's slippery. Uses different names. Slips in, charms the congregation, mostly the widows, then vanishes when the questions start. I saw it happen at my last post in Arkansas. I leaned against the kitchen counter hard. Why didn't you say something? I didn't know it was him at first. He uses different names, slightly different looks. But when you posted that story online and I saw the picture. You recognized him. He exhaled. Yes. You could have stopped this. You could have warned us. I know, he whispered. And I didn't. That's on me. I hung up without another word. My hands trembled, sticky from peach juice. I rinsed them off and looked in the mirror over the sink. There was that old feeling. Like I'd just been sucker punched with the truth and still had to keep smiling for the potluck. I wanted to scream. At Earl. At every man who called himself righteous while dragging women through the dirt. But instead I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at the ring again. The one Earl gave me at Cracker Barrel. The cubic zirconia one that still sat in a velvet box beside my TV remote like a cursed trophy. I opened my notebook. Added another name to the growing web. Eldon Ray Wallace, known aliases. Earl Wilson, Harold Wills, Pastor Grayson Wells. Under it I wrote. Pastor Rick, said nothing. And that's when it really hit me. This wasn't just Earl. This was a system. A pattern. A sickness that thrived in silence. And the silence wasn't just from men like Rick. It was from us too. All the women who got hurt and felt too stupid to speak up. Too old to matter. Too ashamed to say, I got played. That night I held a Zoom call with 5 other women I'd met through the Facebook group. There was Hattie, Sandra Jean, a woman from Memphis named Charlotte, and 2 more, Helen from Huntsville and Gloria from Louisville. We each had stories. Each had the same script. Each had the same hesitation in our voices when we said, I didn't want to tell anyone at first. And that's when Gloria said something that stuck. He doesn't just scam our wallets. He scams our dignity. Makes us feel like fools. So we don't warn each other. Sandra Jean nodded. I didn't even tell my daughter. She still thinks I'm too sharp to fall for nonsense. But you didn't fall for nonsense, I said. You fell for a man who spent years perfecting his lies. You fell for hope. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human. And then I said something I hadn't told anyone until that night. Tom and I were married 35 years. But I don't think I ever felt more seen than I did during the first few weeks with Earl. And that's what he stole. Not the ring. Not the lunch. The part of me that believed I could love again. There was silence on the line. Then Hattie whispered, same. Later that night I got a message on Facebook from someone I hadn't spoken to in almost a year. Meredith Franklin. Tom's niece. Sweet girl about 40 lives in Nashville. We lost touch after the funeral mostly because I was too tired to hold up all the relationships Tom used to glue together. But the message stopped me cold. Aunt DJ, is this the man who proposed to you? Because he's dating my friend's mom now. Same story. Met her at church, promised to marry her by Christmas. She attached a photo. It was him. Only now he had a new name, Ray Dawson. Same smile. Same blazer. Same crooked charm. But this time, I knew where he was. I asked for the address. Meredith hesitated but said her friend's mom lived in Franklin, Tennessee, about an hour and a half from me. She said he'd been staying there, just temporarily to help with home repairs. I nearly choked. That's what he told Hattie too. Said he was just painting her shed for the week. It was the same cycle. The same show. And I had the script now. So I packed a bag. Charged my phone. Printed out everything I had. Names, photos, testimony, screenshots. And I made a call to Sandra Jean. I'm going to Franklin, I told her. To confront him. I'm in, she said. Then Hattie chimed in. You're not doing it without backup. By noon the next day I was in a red Buick beside two other women, all wearing our Sunday best and carrying folders full of receipts and righteous fury. We pulled up to the house. Nice little two-story place in a cul-de-sac with wind chimes and a garden gnome that looked too happy. We knocked. The woman who answered looked confused. Tall, slim, maybe late 60s. Auburn-dyed hair and mascara that had seen better days. Hi, I said gently. Are you with Ray? Yes, she said slowly. He's inside fixing the water heater. We need to speak with him. She blinked. Who are you? I handed her a photo. Of me. Of him. Of Hattie. Of Sandra Jean. Her hand went to her mouth. Is this a joke? No, ma'am, I said softly. This is a pattern. And you're the next target. She stared at the photos. Then called out behind her. Ray, can you come out here a minute? And the moment that man walked around the corner and saw us standing there, I watched something flicker in his eyes. Not guilt. Not fear. Recognition. Like a man who just realized his past had caught up, and this time it brought friends. Stick around for chapter 5, where everything comes crashing down in public. Because what happened next wasn't just a confrontation. It was a reckoning. And it ended where it all began, with a table and a waitress holding a plate of biscuits. The house in Franklin was quiet except for the hum of a ceiling fan and the sound of that lying man's boots stepping across hardwood floors. Earl, Ray, Eldon, whatever name he was wearing that week, froze in the hallway when he saw me, Hattie, and Sandra Jean standing shoulder to shoulder with a folder full of heartbreak between us. The woman beside us, Meredith's friend's mom, stepped back. You know these women, Ray? He blinked, opened his mouth, then shut it. We all stood there. No one spoke. So I did. We know who you are. And we know exactly what you've been doing. Hattie held up a photo of her timeshare receipt. Sandra Jean, her wire transfer slip. I held the ring box, the Cracker Barrel ring, and dropped it on the floor at his feet. He didn't bend to pick it up. Didn't even look at it. He just turned to the woman and said, Can I talk to you in private for a second, darlin'? She stepped back again. No, she said. You can't. And that's when his face changed. He didn't get angry. No, that would have taken effort. He just shut down. Like a man switching off the charm knowing the show had closed. He grabbed his jacket from the banister and tried to walk past us. I blocked the doorway. You're not going anywhere, I said. He smiled. That old fake one. The let's not make a scene one. DJ, come on now. Don't do this. But I did. I took out my phone. Hit record. Held it to his face. Tell them who you are. He looked at the phone, then back at me. Then he said it. Not proudly. Not ashamed either. Just flat. My name's Eldon Ray Wallace. I've been using other names. Harold. Earl. Wells. Ray Dawson. Why? Because people believe what they want to believe. And just like that he tried to step around me. Sandra Jean, God bless her, stuck out her cane and tripped him. He stumbled, caught himself, and cursed under his breath. That's when the police arrived. Yes, I'd called them. Not 911, but a local detective we'd spoken with from the senior scam unit in Nashville. Officer Jenkins. I'd emailed him all the evidence, names, printouts, emails. He said if I could get a clear ID and statement, they'd act. He walked up the steps behind us like a ghost with a badge. "Mr. Wallace," he said calmly, "we have some questions for you." Mind stepping outside. Eldon's eyes darted between us like a trapped raccoon. But he went. Not with a fight. Not with a speech. Just walked out the door, hands in his pockets like it was just another Tuesday. The arrest didn't happen right there. But the report did. Officer Jenkins took each of our statements, took photos of the forged documents, and recorded the confession video from my phone. Within a week, a warrant was issued in 2 different counties. Turns out, Eldon had warrants in Georgia and Kentucky, both buried under different aliases. And it wasn't just romance scams. He'd taken $14,000 from an elderly woman in Rome, Georgia, claiming to be her deceased husband's army buddy who needed help processing an insurance payout. He'd faked letters, worn fake medals, used her grief like a ladder to climb into her life. He was good. But not good enough. Not anymore. But here's the part one never expected. After it all, after the cops, the press, the interviews, something inside me still felt unfinished. Not angry. Not even sad. Just open, like a chapter hadn't closed all the way. So a month later I went back to where it started. Cracker Barrel. Booth number 6. I wore the same pink blouse even though I hated it now. Brought the same notebook, the one where I'd scribbled all the names. And I sat at the same booth. Alone. The same waitress walked up. She blinked. You were here last time." I smiled. "Yeah. I'm back." She sat down across from me just for a second between tables. "You okay?" she asked. "I am now," I said. I opened the notebook and handed her a flyer. It was for a new outreach group we'd started at church. Widows Against Romance Scams, Tennessee chapter. Monthly meetings. Legal help. Group therapy. Laughter. Community. "I want you to hang this on your bulletin board," I told her. "You've got a lot of lonely hearts coming through here." She took it. "You got it." Then she smiled. "Want the usual?" "No," I said. "Give me something new. I'm ready to try something different." After lunch I stepped outside and sat in one of the rocking chairs out front. A man passed by, mid-60s, clean-shaven, said, "Nice day out." I nodded. "Sure is." He paused, smiled, asked, "You from around here?" I looked him over. Nothing suspicious. Just a man making small talk. But I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead I smiled back and said, "Are you?" He laughed. "Fair enough." Then walked inside. And I sat there rocking gently, thinking about everything. The proposals. The shame. Pain. And the second chances. Because that's what this was really. Not about revenge. Not about bringing Eldon down. It was about showing women like me, like Hattie, like Sandra Jean, that we weren't dumb for wanting love. That our hearts still had room. That it wasn't our fault. The local paper ran a story a week later. Tennessee widow brings down romance scam ring after public proposal gone wrong. They wanted to use my photo. I said no. But I let them quote me. "He proposed to me at Cracker Barrel. Then left me before dessert. But I left with something better than pie. I left with a purpose." If you made it this far, thank you. Thank you for listening to my story. For hearing what so many of us are too embarrassed to say out loud. Please, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Not just for me, but for every woman who still believes in love even after the lie. Because the truth is, there's life after heartbreak. And sometimes, even justice.